For Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think. Now, usually when I do one of these, I'll have a topic, I'll have an opinion, and I'll discuss my thoughts in this forum, which is why this segment is called What I Think. But this time I'm not doing that. This time I want to compose an open letter to the new head coach of my Las Vegas Raiders, Antonio Pierce. Antonio, I just have something I want to say to you, and I hope you get a chance to hear this because these are things you need to know. Now, you were just promoted as the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, but I think you need to know a little bit about the history of the organization for which you will be leading for the next few weeks. You're not the first coach who was promoted mid-season after a coach has been fired by owner Mark Davis. Since Mark Davis has been the owner in 2014, he has fired coaches mid-season 3 times. The first time was Coach Dennis Allen, the current coach of the New Orleans Saints and former Raider quarterback Derek Carr. Dennis Allen was fired 4 games into a season and replaced by a position coach, Tony Sparano, the offensive line coach. Not an assistant head coach or a coordinator, but a position coach. Tony Sparano was allowed to coach. He finished the season, and once the season was over, he was not given an opportunity to be the head coach because Mark Davis likes to take big swings, and he's impatient, so he took a big swing and he hired Jack Del Rio. Once Jack Del Rio was gone, Mark Davis took another big swing and he brought in John Gruden. John Gruden was the second coach to be fired in the middle of a season, and once John Gruden was fired in the middle of a season, Mark Davis promoted Rich Bisaccia, the special teams coach, not a coordinator, not an assistant head coach, the special teams coach. Rich Bisaccia got the team to the playoffs that year, though they lost in the first round to eventual Super Bowl runner-up Cincinnati Bengals. But when the season was over and the offseason began, Mark Davis didn't give Rich Bisaccia an opportunity to coach the next full season. He let Rich Bisaccia leave, and Mark Davis took another big swing. And that big swing was former New England Patriot offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. Now, Josh McDaniels was fired in the middle of the season, and the coach that was promoted was Antonio Pierce. Yes, you, the linebackers coach. So pay attention to this. Offensive line coach, special teams coach, linebackers coach. Not a coordinator, not an assistant head coach either time. So now, if you pay attention to the history of Mark Davis and coaches with the Raiders, the position coach will be promoted, given an opportunity to coach through the end of the season, and then at the end of the offseason, the previous 2 times, the new interim head coach was relieved of duties while Mark Davis took a big swing. The popular opinion is that Mark Davis will take another big swing, and that big swing will be Jim Harbaugh, the current University of Michigan coach. But I say all this, Antonio, Coach Pierce, to say enjoy being the head coach of the Raiders while you are. Because based on the history of the organization and the history of owner Mark Davis, you will only be the head coach for the next 9 games. Once the season is over, whether you make the playoffs or not, Rich Bisaccia went undefeated and made the playoffs. Whether you make the playoffs or not, Mark Davis is going to take another big swing. So if I were you, I wouldn't move a whole lot of stuff into the coach's office. If I were you, I'd include this head coaching stint on your resume, but I'd make sure your resume is in order so that you can get your next job. Because based on Mark Davis's history, you will not be the head coach of the Raiders next year. Some big name will be the head coach of the Raiders next year, whether it's Herm Edwards or whether it's Jim Harbaugh or some other big name coach who's coached before and who has a reputation. Whether that reputation is a viable one like John Gruden's was, who won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or whether that reputation is one where the coach is not qualified to be a head coach, as we saw with Josh McDaniels first in Denver, now in Vegas. Either way, there's going to be a big swing, and Mark Davis is going to want to bring in a name because he's impatient and he thinks that he needs to remake the program. He thinks he needs to remake the organization, and that'll come at your expense. I think you'd be a great head coach, Mr. Pierce. I think you would be a great head coach, but you may only get the opportunity through the end of the season, because once the season is over, there will probably be a new starting quarterback, a new head coach, and a lot of the players you're coaching right now or you'll be coaching going forward probably won't be Raiders come September of 2024. I just thought I'd let you know that in case you hadn't been paying attention to the last 10 years. Remember to like and share this video and subscribe to this channel, and visit the Eric J. On Sports website, and follow me on Facebook at Eric J. On Sports 1 and on Instagram and Twitter at Eric J. On Sports. And for Eric J. On Sports, I'm Eric J. and this is what I think.